content recorded. Okay, perfect. So let's get started. So tonight we are going to be covering some different topics related to making a graduate application stand out. So this is specifically for the Master of Professional Education, or the MPED program. And the idea of this session is really just to go through a little bit about what makes an application competitive, what you're going to be required to send in, but also more so what you can personalize, etc., to help make your application competitive. So let's go through these elements. You should be able to see my screen here. If not, just let me know in the chat, but you should be seeing a PowerPoint presentation. So my name is Amber Patrick. There's someone else. We may have had the opportunity to meet already, maybe over email or through a virtual appointment, but I am the recruitment coordinator here at the Faculty of Education. I'm also a graduate, so I graduated in 2019 in the field of equity, diversity, and social justice. So as an MPED grad, like I said, this is primarily going to be MPED focused. If you are here for a Master of Arts program, it's still relevant. And if you have specific questions to that, by all means, just let me know in the chat. But otherwise, we'll try and keep this more with an MPED focus. And truthfully, I think this maybe will take about 15 minutes. I know it's a really nice evening, so I want to let you back out to enjoy that. But if you have questions, I'll be around for a little longer as well. Okay, so in regards to the application itself, these are the elements you are going to be required to send in for your application. So I'm not sure if you've had a chance to go on to the portal or not, but you can go in and out. So if after this session you have not done that, by all means, just a few more people to admit here, sorry. Feel free to go test out the portal, log out, go back in a week later. It doesn't matter, you do not have to complete the application all in one sitting. So just general information, and then we'll go into specifics where I can provide some tips and tricks. So you're going to be asked to provide your personal information, so just your name, email address, phone number, etc., and academic history. So in that, we do want you to provide information for all educational institutions that you've attended. So you're not putting your transcripts there, but you are listing out where you've taken courses, what courses you've completed. Just note that anything you put in that section, we will request a transcript for. So if it was like a non-credit course or something that wasn't undergraduate or graduate level, and you don't necessarily have to include that if it's going to be tricky to get confirmation of that. Obviously, if it was a true credited course, you do want to include it and provide that later. You're also going to be asked to provide references. So we'll touch on this a little bit later in the presentation because I do want to go more in depth with this. Supplementary questions. So really easy. People ask, like, what are these? Do I need to prepare? Not at all. These are not part of your admission assessment in any way. These are more for marketing purposes. So you may get asked, like, how did you hear about the program? How were you referred? It's for our own purposes to reach out to prospective students, etc. So don't worry, has nothing to do with your application itself. We just ask for you, please, to fill those out to help us. There is an application fee. So it's $120 to apply to the program. Now, keep in mind, you are applying directly to a specific field of study. So if you were interested in applying to both education leadership and teaching students with disabilities.
So Leslie, can you see Melissa down there?
Sorry, just be aware for that one sorry, there was just some background noise. If someone is having issues seeing anything, just let me know in the chat and I can certainly help with that. And so for the application fee, if you do apply to more than one stream, just know that there would be 2 application fees for that. So just something to be aware of because they do go to completely separate committees. So on that note, if you do apply to more than one stream, it's completely okay. It's not looked at, oh, this person's not really committed to one stream. Doesn't matter, they go to entirely different committees. You may receive offers to more than one stream and have the ability to make that choice yourself. Next, you will be providing transcripts. So just on this note, little housekeeping item, you are uploading unofficial copies of your transcripts. So a PDF is fine, a scanned version, an image of a transcript, completely fine. If you're accepted into the program, at that point, we would request the officials. So it keeps it pretty easy for the application stage. Next, you'll have your statement of intent and your resume. So these are some of the items we're going to get into in a little bit more depth, but just generally speaking, that is the outline for you. I do get the question a few times, do I have to submit a writing sample? Not for the Master of Professional Education, you do not need to do so. If you're applying to the Master of Arts, yes, there is a writing sample, but the Master of Professional Education, not required. I do want to just put a little disclaimer that I'm not part of the admissions committee myself. I get this information from the committee and I have the ability to kind of share that and give advice, but just know it's not me personally reviewing your files. So I can't give any personalized information, or nor are these secrets or anything, but just general tips that may help you. So when we talk about the references, we are looking for 3. So we ask for 1 academic and 2 professional. The references you choose, it's ultimately up to you. When we say that, what I do want to encourage you to do is we're looking for 1 from an immediate supervisor. So preferably in your current role, whoever you report to, etc., would be encouraged. Next, we want a 2nd professional, and they just ask that it's someone who's familiar with your professional work and background. So you can determine who would be best fit for that. And 3rd, we do ask for an academic reference. If you've been out of school for a significant amount of time, you are welcome to submit a 3rd professional, but the committee does encourage you to really try to get that academic if you can do so. You know, it is a graduate level program. There is a high academic component to it. So it does help make your application more competitive. But at the same time, we understand if your professors have potentially retired, moved on, etc., a 3rd professional is completely acceptable. So just keep that in mind. Now, some tips and tricks in regards to this. We do recommend for you to potentially coach your references. And what we mean by this is really let them know why you're interested in this program and give them enough to talk about. So the reason I say this is because the references do play an important role. So the admissions committee, when students are denied and they ask, can I get feedback, etc., we always recommend that they really consider who they used as their references. And when I say this, it's not so much about title. So we're not looking for what is the title of the reference, how senior is their position, etc. You really want someone that can speak directly to you and to personalize it and talk about you as a specific individual. So what we would encourage you to do is give your referees your resume. Give them the resume that you're going to be submitting to this program. Give them information about the program overview, because really it's about goodness of fit. When the committee is determining whether or not to admit you into a cohort, they're trying to make sure that you fit well into the program, the content, etc. So if your referees can fully understand what the program is, what that entails, they're going to have a better idea of how you fit into it and maybe how it relates to your role, your profession, etc., your growth. If you've talked to your immediate supervisor about your career goals, they may be able to draw a line there as well. So do provide them with as much information as possible. If you've already completed your statement of intent, it's also helpful to provide them with that statement too, because again, it just kind of draws it all in where the committee can see the connection between both your professional experience, your referees, etc., really nicely. To the second point here, we kind of talked about this, choose references that know you well. So don't worry again about getting that very senior title, etc. Pick who's going to be able to speak to you as an individual. They don't want to see a general reference statement that looks the same for every student. They want to be able to get to know who you are, what your professional capabilities are, what your academic capabilities are. So put a lot of thought into who you use as your references, because it's like 1/5 of the application. So it's equally as important as your grades, etc. So just keep that in mind. And give them sufficient time and be sure to follow up. So a note on this, it's all digital. So what you do is you provide your referees contact information. So you will put in their email address. As soon as you hit save, so whether or not you've submitted the application, as soon as you hit save, they will receive an electronic form that they fill out and send back to us. They have 2 weeks. I believe the email says it's 2 weeks. If they need longer, like that's possible. It's not that we won't accept it anymore, but generally speaking, we try to give them 2 weeks. Keep in mind that's as long as the deadline doesn't come first. So if you're applying on June 20th, and the deadline is June 30th, they're not going to have 2 weeks. But if you're sending the form now, 2 weeks to submit that, you will receive an automated email once the form has been submitted. So it's easy for you to track if you know it's getting close to that 2 weeks, you haven't received confirmation that they've sent that in. Again, just be sure to follow up. Maybe they are looking for more information, maybe by you providing your resume, etc. You can help them with that process of completing their reference letter. Okay, I'll pause there for a second. If there are any questions so far, anything like that, please feel free to use the chat feature. You can also unmute. We're not a huge group or anything, so we can have a more informal conversation, but whatever works best. Okay, I will keep going and talk a little bit about the resume. So we don't really get too specific in regards to this. We tell students they can upload either a resume or a CV, your choice. There's no specific template, format, length, whatever you think fits best to give you the opportunity to provide what you need to provide to the committee. What we do recommend is that you highlight professional experience, whether paid or unpaid, that is related to both the field that you're applying to and or education as a whole. So anything that you think would help, again, paint that picture. Okay, why are you applying to mathematics education, or why are you applying to equity? Tell us a little bit about what experience you've had and how that will help you. Because one thing to note with the MPED is it is a professional program. It's right in the title. So the idea is that while you're completing the content, the reading, the theory, you are applying that back to the profession. So as long as the committee can see how that would all happen, it helps for sure. And some tips in regards to the resume. Ensure that it's clearly organized and easy to read. So again, we don't give a specific template, but that doesn't mean you should provide pages and pages of information. Keep it organized, keep it concise, as relevant to your field of study or education as possible. Reduce anything that's not going to help support that. And just a note there, sometimes we get a question, what's the difference? I would say for the MPED, we probably see more resume because it is a professional program, but the CV is a little bit longer and it allows you to add awards, publications, etc. So I'd say we see this a little bit more commonly with the Master of Arts or the PhD, where students maybe have more academic experience, less professional. With the MPED, the resume is quite common to see, but whatever you think fits best, no specific guidelines for that. Just make sure that the professional experience comes through. Okay, and the next component we will talk about is the statement of intent. So this is really where you have the most creativity and flexibility. It's 500 words, and we do highly encourage you to keep to that length because anything beyond the committee really is not going to read. So 500 words within the statement of intent, you want to make sure that you state the specific program area that you're interested in. That way they can keep it clear, make sure it's going to the right committee, and make sure that they're reviewing you appropriately. You also want to highlight why you're interested in the program. So tell us a little bit about your background, and then the next note, your career goals, so academic or career. So it's really putting a voice to your application. So put it all together well, this is who I am, this is my educational, professional history, this is what both I can bring to the program or what I hope to take from the program, and this is where I want to go afterwards. Some tips and tricks in regards to the statement: be authentic. Just remember, there's no typical student, especially for the MPED program with the professional nature. We have some recent grads, maybe 3 years out. We have some students that have been 30 years in their career. So it really depends. And for that reason, don't try to fit a mold. Don't worry about that. Let us know about who you are, what's unique about you, and that will really help make your application shine. Help them understand your thought process. So again, this is highlighting your fit. Okay, so that takes us to the end of the formal part of the conversation here. So I'm going to stop this screen share and open it more up. I do have my email there, so it's edrecruit@uwo.ca. So if we haven't had a chance to chat and you are looking for more personalized information, maybe you have questions about your specific background, by all means, feel free to reach out. We do also have on our website the ability to book one-on-one appointments. So again, if you haven't had a chance to do that and you'd like to talk more about a specific stream or have questions about your particular application, please feel free to book an appointment there. I've also provided the email address of the grad office, so specifically to the field, but I would recommend send your questions my way because I work more with prospective students and would be happy to help with those. Otherwise, in regards to deadlines, so the MPED and Educational Leadership with an Aboriginal focus, that deadline is coming up on April 15th. So if you are considering that program, please know that that is just under a month to go. For all other fields of study, the deadline to apply is June 30th. So you absolutely have lots of time to apply. As I mentioned, the applications are open. You can go in and out if you want to start that process. If you do choose to apply, you can typically hear back within about 6 to 8 weeks. So just be aware that you could hear back before June 30th. So if that helps you and you'd rather not wait until that later in the spring, by all means, get that application in as soon as you are ready and you can hear back earlier.